FLAW is an upcoming sci-fi FPS game that looks rather promising, but does ironically have some major flaws. I'll just check the easiest joke off the list. Before I get to the negatives, let me just lay out the game. FLAW is created by French developer Plasmio. As far as I can tell, this is their first game. The demo opens up with your character attempting an escape from an attacking force. Your ship is boarded, overpowered, and the majority of your crew rendered incapacitated. You are given essentially a magnum for this duration, but the lack of any ammo means your first weapon to use is your fist after you wake up at an alien location. After beating an alien to death with some William Smithsonian slaps, you get your first loaded gun. It's a dinky pistol that does not feel particularly good. The demo took me roughly 2 hours to complete, and sadly the first third is the most uneven. The setting and enemies are very cool looking. You see it whoever captured you is slicing open humans. The enemies are a weird mixture of what looks to be flesh and machine. They have strange machines and very cold, rusted looks, with some rooms being more sterile than others. They very much remind me of the Strogg from Quake, and I half expected us to see some sort of Stroggification. Sadly, they aren't the most fun to fight. Now half that reason is due to the opening. Your pistol isn't great, and your melee is just too fucking short. Some swings feel like they should connect, but simply don't. Also, ammo and health are very limited for the number of enemies you'll be fighting. I stayed rather conservative with my shots, making sure to place them on target, but even doing that, I found myself barely scraping by with any reserves. There's no stealthing or rushing the enemy either, as once aggroed they will pursue you. You can't even raise this bridge to halt chasing enemies or anything. The eventual discovery of an SMG somewhat helps, as I think it did more damage. Enemies don't have much of a reaction until they drop dead, or in some cases I'd catch one tossing a grenade and there'd be a very satisfying explosion.
We're not alone. Did we make it?
It does look like the dev has attempted to add in some reactions and dynamic stuff like rolls. I'm just not sure about the current reactions the enemy has. Some later enemies are clearly meant to be more tanky, but these early ones should probably flinch more, or else be made more like robotic fodder. Allow us to blast off a limb here or there. After a bit of exploring to find the keys, I found a group of survivors. Given the lack of ammo, I was relieved to find some help, but that quickly got wiped out.
Ah, on va pouvoir foutre le camp d'ici. Merde, grenade!
Also, now is probably a good time to point out that the game is currently without any voice acting. Text-to-speech is the best we got. It wasn't super annoying. Unless I died and had to load back in, then it would play over each other. Look, I'm just saying, ask me, I'll do some fucking voice acting. I do it for fun. Past this point is when the game actually improves. You manage to collect various guns, and there's much more ammo. I never felt well stocked, but I had enough to know that I could engage outside of just short controlled bursts. One thing I have to give the guns is their cool details. I especially liked how the reticule would react differently on different guns to their reload. I have to give a particular shout out to the heavy rifle, as it sounded and felt perfect. Borderline like a quality bolter. As the demo progresses, you gather up multiple survivors. They aren't vital or anything, but they can distract the enemy. They aren't the smartest, and for the most part, only seem to come equipped with a shotgun or SMG. They always seemed a bit too gung-ho, and if you wanted to keep them alive, then it proved rather difficult. They would group up near explosives, rush into rooms only to be gunned down, or fall victim to friendly fire.
They're here.
I don't know what it was, but this game did somewhat remind me of how older games handled AIL. It might have been the voice lines, which were also, text-to-speech, or just how they felt against the enemy. But I was reminded of Half-Life 2's AI, or somewhat the Marines in Halo. Sadly, despite those titles, they held no roles, couldn't swap weapons, and typically were simple meat shields. There were enough during this elevator portion that just barely outlasted its welcome, where I had enough survivors that they proved capable of handling firefights. I would prefer if the dev implemented a basic stay and follow order for them, plus whenever I got into a semi-big firefight, the frame rate would drop, and this proved rather annoying. Also, while doing that elevator scene, that by the way dev was too fucking long, an ally nearly killed me. That somewhat nicely slides me into the flaws of FLAW. Look, dev, you named the game. So I think the first major issue I noticed, and could repeat without any trouble, was falling out of the map. I don't know why, but this specific wall in this specific building just before the fight with the dropship would have me phase halfway through, and if I then crouched, I would be saying goodbye to the map. The other noticeable one was the stealth. I'm not asking for thief, but the enemies I could get behind and melee felt almost scripted to accept the fisting I delivered. I mean, these head spider critters let me stand on them. Also, yeah, increased the range of melee. It felt annoying having to crouch to hit the garbage bins or the head of spiders. I understand you don't want us to maybe strike the floor while standing, but I feel like I could bop the top of the spiders' heads. For as good as the guns could feel, they did have one horrible problem. If an enemy was too close, the guns simply would not hit them. In fact, the guns would strike way to the left. The enemy is big on pushing, and some will close the gap almost immediately. The shotgun enemy had one annoying problem that confused me. So the pattern is that it shields itself when shot, and it will move the shield to use its shotgun, giving you an opening. Well, I used the SMG, and the shield would snap back immediately. However, if I used my own shotgun, it was a hit. I'm not sure why this is. The only alternative was to use my allies as targets while I would flank around. Finally, the autosave is fucking trash. I relied purely on manual saves, as the one time I tried the autosave, it dropped me 30 minutes back. This isn't a terrible game, and in fact it's a very solid demo that, if improved upon, could be something. The developer simply needs to iron out the problems, fix level collision, and add in proper voice acting. I don't know what's planned for this game or how later areas may look, but I am interested. Interested to see if the aliens remain meat shields, or if any sort of depth is added to them. The weapons here feel good past the starting pistol, and I hope to see more kooky ones. For all its current flaws, FLAW manages to be a promising little gem. I'm 3 for 3, baby.
Shit, we're hit. We're losing altitude. We're not gonna make it. I'm gonna try and avert this plan.